We all know the classic story. Adam was the first man created by God, molded from the dust of the earth. Seeing him alone in Eden, God decided to give him a companion, Eve, formed from one of his ribs. Together, Adam and Eve shared the responsibility of caring for the garden and became central to the story of the fall after eating the forbidden fruit. But what if I told you that Eve wasn't Adam's first woman? Hidden within ancient texts and traditions lies a mystery that reveals there was another woman before Eve, a figure shrouded in shadows, whose name was nearly erased from official scriptures, Lilith. Lilith is mentioned in esoteric sources and Hebrew traditions as Adam's first wife. Created from the same dust as him, she saw no reason to consider herself inferior or submit to his authority. This conflict sealed her fate and separated her from Adam and Eden. According to the accounts, Lilith left paradise of her own accord, choosing independence over accepting imposed rules. From that moment, she was stigmatized as a dangerous and seductive figure, the queen of demons, and was attributed with supernatural characteristics. This woman is described as one of extraordinary beauty, with features designed to captivate. Her long, dark hair flows like a mantle, cloaking her face in mystery. Her eyes are deep and hypnotic, capable of captivating and dominating the will of those who meet her gaze. Her appearance is flawless, almost divine, but it also conceals an unsettling side. In many depictions, she is given black wings like those of a bat, symbolizing her connection to the nocturnal and the occult. Some traditions claim she has claws instead of human feet, reflecting her demonic and supernatural nature. This contrast between her dazzling beauty and her dark traits makes her a fascinating archetype, blending allure with fear. Lilith, whose name means night in Hebrew, is also linked to the verb le'elel, meaning to cry or lament. This etymological connection reflects her association with sadness, bitterness, and suffering. However, in ancient texts, she is rarely referred to directly, often called Pellenite, meaning the harlot or the nameless one. This taboo surrounding her name underscores the fear and reverence her figure inspired. In the Bible, some scholars believe Lilith is mentioned in Isaiah 34:14, a passage describing how beasts and dark forces dwell in a desolate place. The Lilith shall also rest there and find for herself a place of repose. While others suggest this reference might allude to a nocturnal animal, many interpret it as a direct mention of this enigmatic figure, associating her with abandoned places and destructive energy. But this hidden entity does not merely reside in ancient texts and mythological traditions. Her story represents much more. She symbolizes independence, rebellion, and the refusal to conform to imposed norms. But she also embodies the dangers of uncontrolled energy. She serves as a reminder that the forces we reject or fear can persist in the shadows, influencing our perceptions and our lives. Lilith, a figure who has transcended the boundaries of myth to become an emblem within demonology, embodies the union of absolute independence and unrestrained chaos. Her story, complex and rich in symbolism, begins with her creation as Adam's, equal in essence but rejected for refusing to submit to him. This defiance led her to abandon Eden, transforming her into a being that not only operates in the shadows, but also embodies them. After her exile, Lilith became associated with Samael, one of the most complex and powerful entities in demonology. Samael, whose name means poison of God or blindness of God, is known as the angel of death in Hebrew tradition. He is not merely an executor. Samael also serves as a judge and a figure straddling the threshold between the divine and the infernal. His role is not solely to punish, but to test the spiritual resilience of humans, making him both feared and respected. The union of Lilith and Samael is not merely romantic or carnal, but a symbolic fusion of complementary yet dangerous energies. Lilith embodies rebellion and untamed desire, while Samael represents judgment and destruction. Together, they form an archetypal pair governing chaos and temptation, giving rise to the Lilim, a lineage of dark spirits. These Lilim are described in ancient texts as beings that spread chaos, temptation, and disorder in the human world, serving as extensions of their mother's influence. In demonology, Lilith holds a prominent position as the queen of demons, a figure who dominates the spiritual plane with her ability to manipulate and seduce. Her association with the succubus myth makes her a force that strikes during moments of vulnerability, visiting men in their dreams to drain their vital energy. But her influence is not limited to men. She is also said to harbor deep hatred for human mothers and their children, which led to the creation of protective amulets in Hebrew and Mediterranean cultures to shield newborns from her influence. One of the most intriguing aspects of this entity is her connection to forbidden knowledge. Some texts suggest she is linked to the serpent that tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden, solidifying her role as a guide toward the occult. However, this knowledge comes at a cost. It represents the pursuit of truths that defy divine norms, with both illuminating and destructive consequences. Lilith's presence also extends into astrology, where she is associated with the black moon, a symbolic point reflecting repressed desires, dark impulses, and parts of the psyche that many fear to confront. The black moon represents not only temptation, but also the necessity of integrating internal shadows to achieve spiritual balance. This astrological connection underscores her, linked to the collective unconscious and her capacity to expose hidden truths. Symbolically, Lilith represents a dual energy, the creative and destructive forces that inhabit the universe. While demonology portrays her as a malevolent figure embodying chaos in psychological and esoteric contexts, she serves as an archetype, reflecting humanity's desire for freedom and the fear of its consequences. Her story and influence transcend mythology, making her a central subject for those seeking to understand the hidden forces governing both the spiritual and inner worlds. As a symbol, Lilith teaches us much about the issues plaguing our society today. Though she originates from ancient tradition, her influence remains alive in how we understand and navigate human relationships, especially in a world increasingly obsessed with the superficial. Since the sexual revolution of the 1960s, we've been promised that sexual freedom would make us happier. Yet the reality has been quite different. Today, there is more loneliness, dissatisfaction, and emotional and spiritual disconnection than ever before. In her story, Lilith rejected Adam because she refused to submit, creating a chasm between them. This lack of connection beyond the physical led to distance, not union. We see echoes of this in our modern culture, where many relationships are built solely on the physical, neglecting the emotional and spiritual. At the same time, we are bombarded with narratives that distance us from traditional family values and pure love, viewing them as relics of the past with no place in modern life. This disconnection not only creates a void, but often leads to relationships that fail to truly satisfy or fulfill us. We live in a society that places appearance above all else. Social media, advertisements, movies, everything seems to revolve around perfect bodies and quick connections. Yet this obsession with the superficial is creating a deeper problem. We are more connected than ever in terms of technology, but emotionally, we've never been more detached. This is where the myth of Lilith gains relevance. Her story reflects how sexual energy, when uncontrolled and used solely to satisfy immediate desires, can cause more harm than good. In this context, Lilith is not just a mythological figure. She is a reflection of the dynamics of our current society, as well as those of the past. This isn't about demonizing sexuality, as it's an important and natural part of life. But when it becomes the sole focus of relationships, we forget that true value lies in complete connection, body, mind, and spirit. Without this holistic connection, we are left with a lingering loneliness that resides deep within us. The issue isn't sexuality itself, but how we use it. When it becomes merely a tool to fill voids or achieve fleeting pleasure, it often leads to greater dissatisfaction in the long run. We see this in rising rates of loneliness and depression, in relationships that break easily, and in many people's inability to find deeper meaning in their lives. Lilith's story invites us to reflect. It reminds us that true connection isn't found in the superficial, but in a balance between the physical and the spiritual. This isn't about rejecting desire, but integrating it in a way that enriches our lives and relationships. Now, more than ever, we need to understand this. In a world so focused on the immediate, Lilith's myth challenges us to seek something more lasting, meaningful relationships, genuine emotions, and a real connection with ourselves and others. Protecting oneself from Lilith's influence has been a recurring concern in various spiritual and esoteric traditions. Her figure, wrapped in mysticism and ancestral fears, is associated with chaos, temptation, and emotional vulnerability. In Hebrew folklore, Lilith was believed to pose a threat to newborns and people who slept alone, leading to the creation of rituals and tools specifically designed to counteract her presence. One of the oldest methods involves using amulets inscribed with sacred names. According to accounts, Lilith was confronted by three angels, Senyoi, Sensenoi, and Simangilov, who imposed an oath upon her not to harm children protected by their names. These names were engraved on amulets or parchments and placed near cradles. This practice, deeply rooted in the power of words and symbolism, seeks to establish a spiritual shield that blocks harmful energies. Light also plays a fundamental role in protecting against Lilith. Since her figure is associated with the night and darkness, many traditions recommend keeping a lamp lit in vulnerable rooms, especially at night. This act not only symbolizes the triumph of light over darkness, but also establishes an atmosphere in which positive energies prevail. Spiritually, light is a natural barrier against forces operating in the shadows. Another powerful tool for countering her influence is the recitation of sacred texts. Psalm 91, known as the Shield of the Almighty, is one of the most widely used for protection against negative entities. This psalm, when recited with intention and faith, is believed to generate protective energy that repels any malign influence. Additionally, in many esoteric traditions, protective verses are written on parchments and placed in strategic points of the house, such as doors and windows, to establish a spiritual barrier. Space purification is also essential. Rituals using salt and herbs like rue, rosemary, or lavender are employed to cleanse and protect homes. Salt, known as a spiritual purifier, is placed in room corners to absorb negative energies, while the smoke from herbs purifies the air and reinforces the intention of protection. These rituals, though simple, are highly effective in maintaining a clean and disturbance-free environment. The power of symbols is another key element. The Seal of Solomon, a six-pointed star, is widely recognized for its ability to balance and protect. When placed at entrances or worn as a pendant, it acts as a spiritual shield that harmonizes the energies of the space and the person wearing. In many cultures, these symbols not only repel Lilith, but also strengthen the connection with the divine. In addition to external methods, protection against Lilith requires an internal focus. Energies like those represented by Lilith often feed on emotional vulnerabilities and personal imbalances. For this reason, maintaining a balanced mind and an active spiritual life is essential. Visualizing a shield of light surrounding the body or home can be a powerful tool. This shield, imagined as a luminous barrier, creates personal protection that reinforces the intention to ward off any negative influence. Finally, one of the most effective ways to ward off Lilith's influence is to avoid environments that promote destructive behaviors. Obsession with superficiality, constant pursuit of external validation, and spiritual disconnection are fertile grounds for negative energies. By choosing environments and relationships that nourish emotional and spiritual growth, a natural barrier is created against any force attempting to disturb balance. Lilith is not just an echo of ancient texts. She is a living archetype that reflects our own contradictions, fears, and deepest desires. Her story challenges us to look inward, to acknowledge our shadows, and learn to integrate them rather than fear or ignore them. She reminds us that the balance between light and darkness, between freedom and responsibility, is essential for our personal and spiritual growth. In a world that values the superficial and the quick, Lilith teaches us the importance of going deeper, questioning norms, and seeking an authentic connection with ourselves and others. She is a symbol of the dangers of spiritual disconnection, but also a guide to integrating the hidden, that which we reject and fear, transforming it into strength and wisdom. And if this journey into the mystery of Lilith has left you thinking or wanting to know more, you are not alone. Her legacy invites us to explore beyond the obvious and seek answers in what remains hidden. Like and subscribe to continue discovering together the secrets of esoteric knowledge and uncover what still lies hidden in the shadows.